This week, we're talking about our automotive mistakes in our personal lives. We give the goods on the new Subaru Ascent, and we're taking audience questions, particularly on Volkswagen GTIs. Next on Talking Cars. Hi, welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm Mike Monticello.
And I'm John Lincove.
So we were talking around the water cooler the other day, talking about cars, as you might imagine. Cars that we've owned in our personal lives, cars that we owned before we started even working here at Consumer Reports. And inevitably, it was got to the topic of, I bought this old car and I sunk all this money into it. And looking back, maybe it wasn't such a great idea. So we kind of came up with this topic called our favorite automotive mistakes. And we've all got stories. We bet you guys do too. But Mike, why don't you tell us about one of your favorite automotive mistakes?
So many mistakes in life. Wait, what were we talking about?
Automotive.
Yeah.
That's a different episode.
My big automotive mistake was this 1999 Mazda Miata that I bought, which is the second gen Miata, the NB for you Mazda Miata nerds out there. So I bought this off a buddy, and he'd already kind of set it up for autocrossing with some suspension work and a roll bar, and we fixed the hard top so that it was fully in place. And then I thought, well, I want to make it into a track car, so I wanted more power. And I found this $500 used turbo kit online. And this is a $4,000 turbo kit. So
what could go wrong?
Red flag.
Put this thing on the car, and it dynoed at 226 horsepower at the rear wheels, which is a lot of power for a Miata.
How much did your car weigh about? I mean,
I have no idea.
It was like nothing. I mean, 2,000 pounds.
I didn't know one, so
I don't know what it would have been.
Anyway, go ahead.
The point is, I put it on this car, and then so I thought, okay, it's going to be this great track car. But I had all kinds of overheating problems, especially on the track when I'd be running it hard. So, I thought I, solved one problem by making it faster, but I caused a problem by now it's overheating. Okay. So then I tried different things. It had a heavy-duty radiator. It had what they call a coolant reroute kit, which is a common thing to do for turbo Miatas. Mm-hmm. And then we changed we put these nozzles on so that we rerouted the spray for the windshields to be spraying onto the radiator. So I'd be hitting the windshield, the lever stalk while I'm going down the straightaway to try to spray water on the radiator.
What?
And then
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, total. And then my favorite one though, and I put a full 3-inch exhaust, on it to hopefully make it run a little cooler. And then my favorite one was we fabricated a super low air dam out of lawn edging. And the point was to force as much air as possible up into the intercooler, right?
Because front end lift is a big issue.
And you get all your automotive parts at Home Depot.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's where we got it from. That's honestly where we got the lawn edging from.
Yeah.
So then what happened was we forgot that we're now blocking off all the air to the brakes. So now the brakes are overheating. So my point being that I just caused one more problem after the other. And
sunk a lot of money into it.
Sunk a ton of money into this car and never solved all of the problems. And I ended up selling the car right before I moved back here to Connecticut because it was over the top for me in terms of engineering. I think there was more things we still could have done, but it was costing
to
us
mess
so
it
much
up, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean you didn't even get to the rear end.
What else can we do wrong?
Spent so much money on that car, and it bothers me that I never got it right. That really does bother me.
And did you win some races?
Well, I didn't. I was just doing track days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you won the track days.
Right.
I didn't win the track.
Participation trophy.
Okay.
Yeah. So Southern California Mazda Miata stories to what have you got, John?
1983 Audi Turbo Quattro Coupe. Kind of a rare car. They only made it for a couple of years. Turbocharged engine, like I said. Let's see, it started off when we bought the car from a guy here in Connecticut, and we realized that instead of 18 millimeter ball joints, he had put 17 millimeter ball joints from the regular front wheel drive Audi Coupe GT. So that was a problem because they could have come out anytime during the drive home. So then there was expensive finding these. So basically the parts for an Audi Turbo Quattro Coupe are unobtainium. It's just really hard to find this for a rare car, and they're expensive. So we had to find the whole, new ball joints, and And then the engine hadn't been really run through with oil changes regularly. So the engine died. So we put in an engine from an Audi 5000, the sedan, so the turbo sedan. Then it was running okay. And we, let's say, ripped out the interior, put in Recaro and then a non-named seat for the passenger. So a sport seat for tracking, put in a roll cage. Then the hoses started melting during track days because it ran so hot, and it also had ceramic fuse box. So instead of just having normal fuses, it had the ceramic fuses. So you got to replace that. It just became a nightmare, and probably the coup de grace for this car was driving back from Summit Point, which is a racetrack in West Virginia, driving back to Connecticut with the car. The lights were notoriously bad. The electrics of those early German cars were notoriously bad to begin with, and it just didn't generate enough light. I mean, these would have been wonderful. A flashlight would have been better. So I would drive behind tractor trailers as close as possible so the headlights would bounce off the rear door, and I'd be able to see, like, if there was a pothole or a deer running out, or just see my way.
And you were hypermiling, so you got great fuel mileage.
I was totally hypermiling. And I was hypermiling before people talked about hypermiling.
And if it was raining on top of that, the visibility
Fortunately, it wasn't raining. Fortunately, it wasn't raining. I put the car in storage. Took the car to my mechanic and then went to put it in storage to sell to someone. And it was basically this kind of like, okay, I'll put it in storage. I'll leave the key at the box. You send me the check, and then I'll have him release the key to total mess. The car cut out 4 times on the drive, and I just remember screaming at the car, like, just get me to the end, just get out of my life, Yeah, I'd be driving along, make a shift, and it'll go, Woo. And I'd shift and go, Woo, and run back up. So, and a ton of money the same way, and it would be nice to have. And eventually, the guy who bought it drove it for a while, and then he misshifted and blew the engine and put a V8 in it, and then sold it. So I don't even know where it is. It's a great car. I would buy a sorted one now because much more of an adult and have, a
That's
savings.
what I did wrong. Right. I should have put a V8 in my Miata.
You can put a Mustang 5 liter
monster
in it.
Miata.
Yeah. So that was my story.
Awesome.
Wrong time, right car. Let's put it that way.
I
had to get rid of the hardest thing was the divorce because I had to shuffle it when the house was sold and all that.
She should have gotten into the divorce. That's your problem now.
Could have sent it to her. I could have sent it to Europe with her, and kind of gone back home to get repaired in Germany.
Awesome. Well, my favorite automotive mistake is what I like to call my three cars no job era of my life. Yes, there was a time that I had a 1965 Ford Mustang GT. I had a 1987 Honda Civic Si, and I had a 1985 Mazda RX-7. Again, with no steady income. Freelancing, very smart. So I owed money on my Honda Civic, and I came across this first generation Mazda RX-7, and I just, oh my God, I have to have this. I was in my 20s, and I thought now would be a good time to have my midlife crisis. So I get my sports car, and again, this was the 1980s, so selling the Honda really wasn't going to be a problem because everybody was standing in line to buy the Honda. So
you didn't sell it? Because there was an opportunity?
I had to sell it.
Where's the mistake? This sounds fantastic.
The mistake
barely working, 3 cars?
And 2 car payments. I owed money on the Honda, and I took out another loan, and I don't know how, between the bank and my mother co-signing the loan, they gave me a second car loan, and I just kind of, I've got this automotive thing going. I'm writing here, and I'm doing this project, and I'm freelancing. Oh, okay, here, take another loan out.
Sure, you got a good rate, too.
I don't know how I pulled all this off, and again, was it really smart or really, really stupid? It was kind of stupid because, again, 3 cars, no job.
You were young and stupid. That's what you're supposed to do.
Very, very young and even stupider. So anyway, I did wind up selling the Honda and helping, pay all that off, and I eventually got out of it. But one of the pieces of advice that we talk about all the time in Consumer Reports, when you're looking for a car, whether it's a new car or a used car, is don't fall in love, because when you fall in love, you forget all rationality.
But where'd the RX-7 go in the Mustang?
The RX-7 I kept for a number of years and drove it up until I started working for Consumer Reports in 1993. And the Ford Mustang, I bought it in 1988, and I kept that up until just a couple years ago.
So you kept that the longest?
Yes, kept that one the
Makes
longest.
sense, actually.
And that actually that actually was a good automotive. That was not an automotive mistake because it not only held its value,
Sure.
it actually went up in value.
Oh, awesome.
So that's some of our automotive nightmares, and we bet you got a whole bunch of stories about yours. So please send us your stories to talkingcars@icloud.com. Which brings us to our next segment, the cars that we're driving here at the track. And we are going to be focusing on the Subaru Ascent. Subaru has actually been very absent in the three-row SUV segment for years. The last effort they put out was the Tribeca, which was in 2014. And quite frankly, Subaru has been getting eaten alive in this segment from Honda, Ford, Toyota. So we've had some time with this car, and so tell us, John, how is this Ascent driving?
So it's totally not the Tribeca that left the industry
goodness.
in 2014, which was a much smaller 3/4 attempt at an SUV. The Ascent is really impressive so far. Very roomy, drives well, it's quiet, not dynamically exciting, but it's not a category with exciting SUVs. Toyota Highlander, Honda Pilot, maybe Ford Explorer, people would say are interesting. Chevrolet Traverse is kind of right on par. No one's going to go home and be invigorated by driving those cars, but all roomy, all big enough for 7 or 8 passengers. The Ascent's available 7 and 8 passenger versions. It's a first year, and you're never sure about first year vehicles, but so far it impresses both the feature wise and also just ease of getting into it, space. It looks kind of like a grown up Forester, which it almost is.
Or like a giant Forester.
Right.
Or a giant Forester.
But
Okay.
Subaru's had to have something for their owners to trade
Yeah,
up to. right?
absolutely. They really did need this to compete with Honda Pilot, Toyota Highlander, all those kinds of vehicles. And there's a couple things I really like about it. For one, I really like the ride is fantastic. I mean, I feel like I can drive over potholes. I don't even have to avoid them. I just drive right over them, and the thing doesn't even care. That's how good the ride is. But it also has this new engine. It's a 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder with 260 horsepower. It is mated to a CVT, which is not always the best, but in this case, it's actually a pretty good CVT.
The flaring is the same.
It minimizes the flaring that CVTs are known for, where they rev really high and doesn't seem to match the acceleration. In this case, it tries to mimic the shifts of a traditional automatic, which is better. But what's really nice is this thing actually has some power, and it's nice to drive a Subaru, or I should say to drive a non-WRX, non-STI Subaru that has some actual power. And that's one of the things I really like about this Ascent.
Right. I think when I actually drove it last night, and I agree with everything you guys are saying, but I will say that to me, the steering is really loose. It doesn't feel connected to the road. Yeah. The handling feels a little sloppy.
Absolutely.
It does not feel as satisfying to drive as a lot of. So even the last Impreza that we drove, which was redesigned, I believe, last year, really had just a more engaging driving experience. This seems so detached to me, and I'm kind of disappointed from that perspective. But who knows if they're going to go back and reassess that.
One of the things people have been critical of Subaru about is, where has this vehicle been? Where has this vehicle been? And I want to argue that Subaru was such a small player a number of years ago, 14, 13, 12, and they've really increased their market share by building out a good Impreza, by building out really solid the Outback wagon and the Legacy sedan, and as well as going in the Crosstrek and stuff. So they filled in niches because they had a lot of holes given the way the industry's moved. Versus Volkswagen with the Atlas, where they had all those cars and they still kept, they just were late with that Atlas. Now the Atlas is a really impressive vehicle in the sense of what it offers inside and the ease of getting that third row. I think it hurt Volkswagen more because of their growth needs, Subaru with their more incremental growth. So it's the right time for this vehicle, and I think they realized their mistake, and they had to come out with the right one, not just a space filler.
Yeah, right. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, we're just putting break-in miles on the vehicle right now. We haven't tested it yet. We're going to test it. It'll be interesting to see where it ends up versus its competitors. I will say right now, I can tell you it doesn't drive anything like a Mazda CX-9. But I think for most people, it's actually going to be a pretty nice vehicle.
Right. And you're right. It is the right time for their Subaru buyers, and if they can make it reliable, I think they're going to sell a lot of them. Yeah. And so good on Subaru for getting on with that.
And standard safety features across the
Forward
board.
collision warning, automatic emergency braking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that out of the box.
And standard all-wheel drive.
Yep.
The Subaru tradition.
Yeah.
So that's going to bring us to our next segment, which is questions. We love getting your questions, and we thank everyone for sending them. Again, we're going to put out that address again. It's TalkingCars@iCloud.com. TalkingCars.
You try to screw it up every time.
I got cars, I got cloud, I got com. I can't. Anyway, I don't know why they let me do this.
I think they put it up on the screen for those that are watching.
Good.
Yes.
So, first up, I enjoy your podcast. Always very informative and entertaining. Much of the time, the discussion and questions center around quality, reliability, and practicality. But just for fun, tossing out regard for traditional CR metrics, what are your dream car SUV that is also one you could daily drive, keeping some of the CR focus? Excellent question, and probably if you're a car person, something you think about all the time. So, Mike, I'm going to throw it to you. And what's your dream daily driver?
So for me, it would be the E90 BMW M3, which is the four-door M3 from 2008 to 2011. This is when it had the 4-liter V8, with 414 horsepower. I'd of course get it with the 6-speed manual. This engine sounds so good. I remember, coming from the E46, I thought, when they put this V8 in the M3, I'm thinking, well, that's just wrong to put a V8 in the M3, right? Because that inline 6 of the previous M3 was so sweet.
And it's what BMW is known for.
Exactly.
Straight 6.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they put this V8 in there, and then I drive it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. That V8 sounded so good. Of course, it still handled fantastic, a great shifter. And I really fell in love with this car when I got the opportunity to drive one back from the Pebble Beach Concours Monterey Historics weekend that they do every year in August.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I went to Pebble Beach.
Now you're in Connecticut?
And I went there I got to the concourse really early in the morning so you can see them actually drive the cars out onto the lawn, which is the cool way to do it. And then I left before even any of the judging, hopped in this M3 and drove back on some of the best roads that California has some really great, curvy roads in the middle of nowhere. And I had just amazing drive with this car, and I fell in love. And I'd get the 4-door because it's kind of like this, the practical version.
It almost means you're an adult now.
Almost. But yeah, so that would be, if I could have one right now, that would be the car I would drive every day.
It is an awesome car. We borrowed one or rented one from BMW. I remember coming down the street to work, and we have a neighbor who's, concerned about people, going fast on the road. It's a curvy road.
Yeah.
I made sure to downshift. I went down the second, and of course the thing bellows. And he came down going, "You're racing down the road." I go, "I was at 20 miles an hour, sir. 20 miles an hour." It's just the exhaust. I wasn't even rubbing it.
I like you said, sir.
Yes. Well, he kind of got up my face out of his pickup truck.
So John, I'm going to think that your dream daily driver also might have a good sound to it.
Audi RS2.
Okay.
European only, though it was sold in a couple other overseas countries.
So are you moving? Is that what you're telling us?
No, well, gray market. So there's the black market, which we won't talk about the secret selling, underground. The gray market, you can import a car. You have to pay for federalization. You have to pay, make sure that it meets U.S. standards for exhaust and bumpers and stuff. Bumpers are actually one of the things that ruined a lot of the older European cars.
Absolutely.
Right? Big, ugly things.
They were forced to put those on there, and they look terrible.
Exactly. Right? But if I could federalize it, and the car is rare. I mean, built March 94 through July 95. I mean, 1 year they only made about 2,700.
Now, room for car seats or
4-door wagon.
Okay.
4-door wagon.
That sounds pretty good.
Yes. Okay. 311 horsepower, turbo 5-cylinder, 6-speed manual. Collaboration between Audi and Porsche. So you have Porsche breathed on the engine. In fact, in the little logo, it says Porsche on the inside the Audi Sport logo. Very cool.
Very cool.
Bigger turbo. They had more ducting to the intercooler. Maybe your Miata could use that.
It's funny. After John's story of one of his automotive mistakes, he's going right back to it.
I would. Well, this is a finished car. This is a car you don't need to do anything to.
You mean you don't need to fabricate brake ducting like we did? That was the next thing we did. And I forgot to tell you about the brake ducting that I had someone fabricate in that
up to where the wipers
in that air dam that we fabricated.
Yeah, M in Miata stands for mistake.
so that's the car. It would be in blue, Nagaro blue, I believe.
My M3 was going to be in blue.
Yep.
Wow.
So I would do that. It would be incredibly rare. They made an RS4 later, and maybe that'd be a little easier to get through Canada. But no, RS2.
Love it. Sounds awesome.
Yes.
And now for the most boring part of the program. Actually,
Quincy.
my dream car, this is really odd, but I mean, it's an Acura TSX wagon. And, I'm with you with the wagon body style, kids, dogs, bikes, the whole thing.
You really are
the
an old
whole
dad.
nightmare. But what I love about the TSX wagon, it's reliable, it's comfortable, easy to get service on it. It's just the right size for me. The styling is clean. It's just kind of normal.
Yeah.
And I guess that is kind of boring, but
No.
I kind of like normal these days.
Yeah. Teach his own.
Anyway, moving on to the next question. We've got one involving what to do after owning one of our favorite cars, the Volkswagen GTI. Hi, CR. I currently drive a two-door Mark 7 Volkswagen GTI. While I love this car, I'm looking to step up to a more mature, classy car. I want a sedan that's under $60,000, fun to drive, more power, and all-wheel drive. My first choice is the Audi S3. Are there any other cars that I should look at? Okay, throwing it to you, Mr. Audi. What advice do you have for this guy?
S3. No.
No,
So I got two choices for him. So it's not a sedan, it's a hatchback. It's a Volkswagen Golf R. So it's a turbocharged, higher performance version of the GTI, all-wheel drive. This one's with a stick. Navigation, destination is $895. Out the door, $40,680.
I love that you built these and printed them out.
I know.
Look at
I
that.
know.
We
in the
work for
blue
you.
as well. In blue, which is pretty cool.
That's a nice car.
The other one, I think, is a pretty good alternative. BMW 340i xDrive sedan. So it's a four-door. 56,850, a little higher, but you get the manual, you get a couple things like M Sport design, premium package, Estoril blue metallic, that's true BMW color, red Dakota leather interior. Two options. I think they're both fun. I think the Golf R is nice because you can save some money and then do the Monticello upgrade package. And then save money to fix it. But,
Save money for the flatbed that picks it up when it overheats, of course.
But I'm sure Mike has a
Clearly, I'm not an engineer. I think that's.
I think Mike probably has a better choice.
Those are tremendous.
I do have a better choice. First of all, I want to say that the Audi S3 would be, I think, he'd be really happy with that car. And it's reasonably quick, it handles really well, so there's nothing wrong with that. But why stop at the S3? Go for the RS3. For $55,000, you can get an RS3 with a 2.5 liter turbocharged 5-cylinder with 400 horsepower. That's the car they want.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Both of these are
Still under the $60,000.
none of these are dogs here.
I wonder if it's harder to get that RS3 though. Maybe paying a price premium.
They're pretty rare. Listen, a $60,000 budget, that's pretty awesome. I was pretty close to one of John's choices. I came up with the BMW X3 M40i. We rented one of these from BMW a while back. This car is vastly entertaining, an incredible exhaust note. I love the six-cylinder engine, tons of power. If you just get the Driving Assist Plus package and heated seats, you can sneak in just under $60,000. You might think 60 grand for an X3 is a whole lot of money, but this was one of these cars that totally stuck with me after it was gone, and I absolutely adored it. So I think it's pretty awesome that this is the kind of money that you can spend for your next car.
Nice to have those choices.
Yeah. If you're looking for donation, send it this way so we can fix our cars.
And now another GTI question, but with a slightly lower budget. I have an 07 Volkswagen GTI with a roof rack. That has served me quite well, but it's getting expensive to maintain. I'm looking for a subcompact or compact hatchback for under $25,000 that's practical, reliable, has decent storage, low maintenance costs, and can handle dirt and gravel trailheads. I'm considering a 2018 Honda Fit EX manual or a 2018 Subaru Crosstrek Premium CVT. So, a little bit lower budget. John, what do you got for this guy?
As good as the Honda Fit is, it's pretty reliable, good fuel economy. That guy's gonna be miserable in it, coming from a GTI. It's gonna be loud, it's gonna be uncomfortable. It may be versatile. I don't think it's gonna be a trailhead car. Subaru Crosstrek. You could go with an Impreza hatch, but I would do Subaru Crosstrek. Out the door, it's got enough raised ride height. It's not exciting, but it doesn't sound like he's looking for a GTI replacement performance-wise. He's looking for versatility. The only problem he'll have is, depending on the color, figuring out which Crosstrek at the trailhead is his.
That's true.
He may be having to do one of these. So right there, that's it.
Get a bright color. Maybe they're all bright colors.
Maybe orange. Orange would be a good
Orange
color.
is good. Orange is
Yeah.
good. Mike, what do you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, the Fit is a very practical car, and with a manual, it's a little bit fun to drive, and you can fit actually a bicycle in there pretty easily because
I see what you did there.
It's so I didn't actually mean it. I'm just that smart. It is so versatile, but when you're talking trailheads, any kind of a rough road, it sounds like he's talking about, he might be going over. So in that case, I'd say go with the Crosstrek. What I didn't understand though was why the manual with the Fit, but the CVT with the Crosstrek, because you can get the Crosstrek with the manual unless it's but you can't get the eyesight system. Yeah. So maybe it's to get the eyesight safety system. But here's what I would actually say: forget those two. Spend a little more. For $25,955, you can get a Volkswagen Golf All-Track. It's just a much nicer car.
I'm wondering though if this person is interested in getting out of the Volkswagen maintenance costs, reliability issues. I mean, that's one argument for the Fit actually, because it probably will cost you less in the long run.
For the Fit, but if you look at the reliability, predicted reliability on the Crosstrek and the Golf All-Track are both average. So in terms of reliability, it's a wash between those two.
And his GTI was old. I mean, you're in a maintenance cycle at I think 11 years old.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. Almost any car is going to cost you money over time. I went a slightly different route. I was going to say give up a little bit of ground clearance. Look at the redesigned Toyota Corolla, or maybe a leftover Corolla IM. This has a lot of versatility, can hold bikes, good fuel economy, good reliability. We rented the 2019 Corolla hatchback from Toyota. Really, I came away pretty impressed by that car. I thought the steering and driving characteristics
good handling,
were a lot
pretty
better.
Good handling, yeah.
So again, but not great in terms of ground clearance.
Not your father's Corolla, so to speak.
No, definitely not. We love these questions. Honestly, this is one of our favorite parts of doing this podcast. We get a ton of them. We read every single one of them. The downside is we can't get to all of them, but we really want you to keep sending them. Please keep sending them to TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Now that's going to do it for this episode. We really appreciate you tuning in. As always, if you want more information on the cars or topics we talked about, check out the show notes. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.